Paul did, then we'll go beyond that. We are far from ready for that. We need your grace, we need your power, we need the earth to see the same movement of your Holy Spirit as before. We cannot make it without that.
Yes.
I pray, Father, for forgiveness. I've been misrepresenting your character so many times. We've been failing as a church to do so, but we need your work in our behalf and in us.
Yes.
So I pray at this moment that your Holy Spirit may be present in this place. I pray that your inspiration will work in our hearts for me to speak and for each one of us to hear and take heed. That this may be a challenging but also a changing word. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so here's how we are all going to participate. I will have you open your Bible, but you have to be dynamic with this for the sake of time. And then I will have you reading also some, it's going too loud. But here it's going to be too loud. I will be having you also reading some of the things that are in the screen, okay? So Revelation 3:14. So you can read one or two verses, another person can read one or two verses until the end. We're going to read until the end. Please read out loud. Verse 14 and 15. Who wants to read it? Go ahead, sister. Hold it.
And to the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things say the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot.
Hot and cold. Yes, the next two verses. Somebody else. Thank you, sister.
Excuse me. Whenever it's going to be read or somebody's going to speak, we need the microphone, otherwise the
Okay,
people will not
thank
be
you.
able to hear.
So you just
Thank
raise
you.
your hand. My son will go to you. Who wants to read the next two verses? Please there. It's because he cannot give you the microphone. We are respecting the parameters.
So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked.
Lukewarm, spew thee. Two words that are very strong. Thank you. The next person. It's verses, yes, 18 and 19.
I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous therefore, and repent.
Very important message. Have you heard this message before? Sometimes? Okay, how many verses we still have to go there? 3 more. Somebody can read the last 3 we have there.
Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am set down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
We have a situation. Jesus is the one, the character that is showing in the beginning of Revelation, is a revelation of Jesus Christ, a revelation of his character. Is a revelation of his character through prophecy, because prophecy is an act of love. when the angel will come to Daniel, will say, I came because you're very much loved. In John, the other big book of prophecy, is called the disciple of love. I told you this is to participate. You got that in the beginning? So just because you have a mask, it's not an excuse to not answer. So this is a message for us. This is a message for the seventh church. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 churches. Okay? Church comes from the word ecclesia, that derived from Greek to Latin and then for other languages and English. And ecclesia is an assembly of people. In this case, it's a spiritual assembly, an assembly of the saints. Saints are those who are set aside, separated. They have been already separated from the world and are in a process of even more separation. Churches are God's people. We have the old Israel, the ancient Israel as being spiritual, literal Israel, and after the coming of Jesus, we have the spiritual Israel. The ancient Israel had first 12 men that were the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel. Then they became 12 tribes. 12 represents leadership. And you see, leadership sometimes has this crisis when 12 leaders were sent to spy the promised land. Those are people sent by God's people to check how it is heaven. Only 2 believed in heaven. All the rest came and said that heaven is impossible. We are too little considering all the challenges we have to face so that we can get to the promised land. So don't be just disturbed by that. But then God started this church with the second part of this church with 12 men. Also very defectuous. We saw that even in the lesson. Also with many problems. You know, I have an issue, if you have an issue with what I have an issue with. My issue is that I love the sanctuary message. So almost all my preachings, I go to that. We have, if we put in a timeline, eternity, and I've shown this before, eternity will keep going. This is minus infinite plus infinite. Okay? God chopped a part of eternity in the form of a sanctuary to show us a timeline. And He divided that into 2 parts. Before Christ, the courtyard, and after Christ, the holy, the tent. Then He divided the tent. It's a little bit shifted, but you understand this will go here. Sorry. This will go here. He divided the tent into 2 parts. One for the 6 periods of the church, the holy place. And another for the last period of the church, Laodicea. Hey, wait. Courtyard, holy place, most holy place. Does this ring the bell to you? Daniel was here in the courtyard. Paul was here in the holy place. You and I, we are in the most holy place, period. Justification, sanctification, glorification. What does glory mean? Character. Justification, the process through which you are made just. Sanctification, the process through which you are set aside. Glorification, the process through which Christ's character is engraved in you and in the church. Are you with me? Are we on the same page here? The last church, Laodicea, has a reputation that most of the time people preach about it. Is a church with a lot of problems. They are not hot, neither cold, and they're lukewarm. The Lord is telling them, I would rather you be hidden than you be lukewarm. Why? The lukewarm is the worst situation for you to come out of. Because you think you're hot, but you don't realize you're cold, and not even that cold. If you're cold, it's a contrast, you know. But you know how I got converted? or reconverted. I had a rock band. It was not the church thing, but when all the members of the band were church people, all people from my church, youth from my church. And one day I went to a church program in another place, and those guys were very extreme with their worship. And I said, man, this is radical. And the Lord whispered in my ear, yeah, so your band is not business. I said, yeah, but this is church. Also, if it's out of church, it's okay? Yeah, because I'm not mixing the holy and the profane. He said, are you representing my life? This is where you will end up if you don't take an action now. It was the contrast between what I thought was okay, lukewarm, and seeing a cold situation that I saw, wait a minute, lukewarmness will evaporate to the point that I'll become cold. It's just a slow death. It's worse than a quick euthanasia. I'm not going into a lot of moral issues. I want us to realize that Laodicea has a reputation of being lukewarm and has a pendant threat. I'm going to spew. In fact, in my process of conversion, I was a wildwood, being like my wife says, the devil of the window in the institution. When I went to Collegedale, and it was Pastor Dag Bachelor, he was having a preaching that he was saying, the preaching was the party's over. And I got the message. I was a party man. And then the following day was be ye holy. When I was coming home, I was arguing with the Holy Spirit and saying, you know, I'm a Laodicean. We are like this. We have lukewarm. So you know, Lord, you understand. And the Lord said, you just read one part of the verse. The second part says, I'm about to. So if you don't take an action and a decision in my church that you have known since you were a kid and you have been raised into, I am going to take that action on you. Enough of this conversation of Laodicean. I had enough from you. You know, and I got it serious. So in 1 month we were missionaries. We went overseas and we only came back in 2015. Of course, I'm shortening up the story because that's not the subject today. He is at the door. This means that the door is locked. The door is closed, at least. You see? It means that he's not open, wide open for Jesus to come in. You would expect this is his church. He could come in whenever he wants, but still has to knock. And we are still, wait a minute, I'm just finished. He's anxious to come and have a meal with us. For a Jewish mindset, having a meal with somebody means you're really close to that person.
That's right.
Which means that Jesus is saying, I'm anxious to have some kind of intimacy with you, some kind of closeness. Our relationship is so distant, so formal. You're so technical on the way you come to church and everything. Say here is not only to hear, but to listen. Take heed from what I'm saying. And we are recommended to take 3 things. I didn't put them in order, in fact, but gold, clothings, and eye salve. Okay? Keep this in mind. What are the 3 things we need?
Gold, clothing, eye salve.
Okay? I want you to realize, please don't let me forget this. If I get to the end of the preaching and say, hey, Pastor, you didn't say anything about that. I said, okay, we have to restart the preaching. Look, here we have the most holy place. This is the period we are in, and we are lukewarm. But wait a minute. We have a name. Our name is Laodicea. It comes from Laos and Dicus, which means people and justice. This is the people of the judgment, or the judgment of the people. Since 1844, the judgment has started. We are the people that is going to face this period. Now, the previous church with Philadelphia was Philos Adelphos. Philos means friend, Adelphos means brother, friendship, friendly love. Love like a brotherly love. Philadelphia was all love. Laodicea is all justice. No, because we are cumulative churches. Laodicea is not only the church of justice, it's also the church of love, all the churches that we have behind, or maybe before. I want us to understand that we are to accumulate love and justice together. We are the people of the judgment. We are the people that will uplift the law, uplift the Sabbath, bring it back to its place. But interestingly, there is another tribe that uses part of his name, the tribe of Dan. And Dan also has to do with judgment. Dan is the one that is judging his people, judging those around. That's a subject for another preaching. But I would like you to understand that we have a problem with this. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to draw here, but please don't be confused. It's just this part that I'm going to put here. Because I would like you, I'm going to erase probably the first part of the sanctuary. You know already where we are. We are in the most holy place. I want you to realize, so that's the most holy place. I can say most holy or holy of the holies. Okay? That's the period where we are. So I'm now increasing that for us to see. And what I want you to know, and I know I've shown this chart in other messages, but today I'm going in a different direction. We are looking for the second coming of Jesus. I want you to realize that this 7th period of the church, first, I want you to realize how God is very specific in explaining churches. You can go and trace dates, approximate dates to every period of the church. And our church is the church of the end time, the church of when the judgment starts. 1844, the third angel messages, the judgment is start. Give glory to God because the day of His judgment is come. Okay? So, the church, which church is this? Is this the 7th? Wow, look at that. 7th? Are we the 7th church?
Yes.
We keep the law, which the Sabbath is the seal, so we are the 7th day church. And we are looking forward to the second coming, so we are the 7th-day Adventist church. Do you remember, have you read about how was the process to find our name?
Yes.
How specific, how inspired from above. This name is not by hazard.
That's right.
7th, because we are the 7th church. 7th day, because we uplift the law, which has a seal of authority on the Sabbath. Adventist, because we look at the second coming. This is saying our mission, our vision, who we are. This is our identity. Okay? Now, are we talking about Seventh-day Adventist movement, or are we talking about the Seventh-day Adventist church, or are we talking about the Seventh-day Adventist institution? Oh, now the pastor is opening a can of worms. You know, truth is self-sustained. There's no can of water that can resist the truth. Sometimes it's just a matter of time. Which one are we? The movement, the church, or the institution? Okay. Some of you are already expressing your opinion. I want you to follow me in the process. On 1844, which one of them started? The movement, the church, or the institution? This could put in jeopardy what is the church. So you're saying that movement was not a church?
It was interdenominational.
Okay, let me go. Let me go here a little bit back. I'm teasing you today, but it will end up. When do you want to keep as the beginning of the end times? 1798 or 1844? 1798. Some can pick 1844 because the end time is comprised with those two things. The signs that were happening, the signs of the opening of the sixth seal, and so on. So the moon was bloody because the sun was dark, which means the Son of Righteousness, Jesus, was covered, and so the church was being persecuted and bloody in her shining light. The stars, Satan, that wanted to go above the throne of God, was thrown down to the ground, and the foundations were shaken by an earthquake. So we start the end time. But on 1844, that's really what goes for the beginning of this period. The end time starts in 1798, but the seventh church emphasis is on the three angel messages. The seventh period is when the judgment starts, and the judgment starts in 1844. Jesus comes from the holy place, opens the door from the most holy place, enters in and closes it, and said, no one can open this door. Where was he coming from? The holy place. But which church? Philadelphia. If you hear anybody that is trying to go back to love, 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 and forget the justice, they are trying to close the door that Jesus opened and open the door back. Are you with me? Yes. This is not God's message. This is not present truth. Now, am I saying that justice and law is not loving? No, I told you we are a cumulative church. We are not a church only by its own. We are all the other churches cumulatively to us. So if we find somebody that is just legalistically thinking about the law and with no love for the people, that man is like the man that was forgiven by the king. He felt he was so good that he could not forgive anyone. He was not feeling like, I was so bad, I was forgiven, I'm as bad as others, I can't forgive them. Are you with me? They didn't get the message. They didn't get the message of the judgment. I hear a lot of people talking about the judgment as a fearful thing. The judgment will start by the house of God. That's good news. If you are going to be liberated and considered innocent, or you don't have to pay a penalty, do you want to be the first to be judged or the last to be judged? I want to be right away, my case solved. This is good, isn't it? Amen. So the Lord is saying, He's not saying the judgment will start by the house of God. He's saying, hey, wait, the judgment will start first, my people. I'm going to release them. Then we go and take care of others that didn't accept me. Are you with me? Amen. It's good news. We preach the gospel sometimes as if it was bad news. It's good news. I want you to realize this. This is a very important message. I want to say something as a disclaimer. I should have said in the beginning. I am not looking at the watch. Sorry about that. It's a disclaimer. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But still, I want to focus on the message, not on the time. Amen. It's a message about time, so we are all focusing about time. Amen. I want you to realize that in 1844, what started was the Seventh-day Adventist, not the Seventh-day Adventist Church, was the Adventist movement. Then a little bit with the time, they started understanding the Sabbath and everything, and it started becoming. It was a process. Amen. But the movement was the first thing to start. Amen. Movement. Amen. Why did God start with the movement first and not right away with the institution? Because God wants you to understand something. He says, I have other sheep that are not in this fold. And I want them to come. They are part of the movement, although they are not yet part of the institution. Are you with me? But also because He's saying that we have thieves that come in. They are in the institution, but they are not from the movement. Oh, did you get that? So some people are not in the institution, but are part of the movement. Some people are in the institution, but are not part of the movement. This is no new news. We know that we have wheat and tares. The only problem with our mindset is that we think we have wheat and tares. Because we confuse wheat and tares with the wise virgins and the foolish virgins, and we think it's half and half. Do you have a garden? In which garden tares is half and half of wheat? Tell me. I've never seen such a garden. You go there, sweat to take all those tares out. Sweat to plant something in your garden. When you come back the next day, it looks like you've never been there. The tares just... The Spirit prophecy says that for each person God brings to the church, Satan brings two. Interesting. I want you to realize that we have a misconception that this is a fair battle. This is a spiritual battle. It is not fair at all. Satan hates this church with all his guts. You see, I want you to realize, so in 1844, a movement started. Is this because the Lord is saying, oh yeah, the movement is much more important than the institution. Yes, the Lord is saying that. But when the Lord said that, is the Lord saying, I don't care about the institution? I never read that. But what I want you to know is this. First question to start thinking before we go to our texts. So, if the last church is not necessarily only the institution, but comprises more than that, means that there are 6 periods of the church. The 7th is the period that started all this. How many churches are there? 7. There are not 8 or 9. So whatever started here is the church. Is the last period of the church, because we don't have 8 or 9. So whatever comes after that is not the 7th church. Are you with me? I want you to understand now something here very important. In 1863 to 64, the church got institutionalized. So now we not only were the Adventist movement church, but now we are the Seventh-day Adventist movement church institution. Are you with me? You're not with me? Yes. Are you getting it? The Lord said, okay, enough of the movement, let's start now an institution. Or He created the institution within the movement. Tell me, please. Did the Lord say, we've been with this movement since 1844, now I would like us to start something new. We go for the 8th period of the church. Now is the institution. It's the 8th period. The 7th period was the movement. The 8th period is the institution. Or did the Lord say, within the 7th church, the movement, I'm going to create a new stage within called the institution? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise we'll have a problem, because then we had to have more than 8 periods. So I want you to understand that when this institution was created, the institution was part of the movement, was part of the 7th church. Again, I said, if this is the 7th church and there's no 8 or 9, anybody that will derail from this will be going out of the 7th church into the 8th or 9. Are you with me? For me, this is very simple. But now you might say, well, if the Lord thought to create an institution, then He could create another one and another one, because it's still within the same movement. I'll leave that question on the air, but I want you to understand now what started happening. 1844. In the 1900s, this church, well, first 1888, this church had a big crisis. Yeah. Laodicea or Philadelphia, you know? It's normal. We had just transitioned from Philadelphia. People were still thinking, where are we? Are we becoming too Laodicean, forgetting Philadelphia? All of those things with righteousness by faith and everything. There was a big crisis. We had some people deriving from the church. Then in 1900s, we have the Holy Flash movement. Yeah. And at the same time, we had Kellogg's crisis. Yeah. Okay? I want you to follow me, please. This will require a lot of attention. Kellogg's was saying that God was just an energy. The Holy Flash was saying we can do whatever we want. We have reached a stage of holiness. Mm-hmm. They were bringing also a different kind of worship into the church. Are you with me? Did you hear those 3 things that I said? Yeah. Help me again. Caleb was saying that God was just one like one of us. He was with us, within us, and all around, and all the nature and everything. Mm-hmm. God was everything. Yeah. The Holy Flash movement was saying we've reached a stage that we no matter what we do, we are holy, we are saved. Mm. And also they were bringing a new kind of worship into the church. That's right. Ellen White called that the alpha apostasy. Yeah. The alpha apostasy. And she said, but if you think this is a lot, wait, this is nothing. Wait until you see the omega apostasy. That will be a trembling one, and it will come. But it will be very similar. The characteristics will be the same, just worse. I want you to realize what happened with our church since then. 1957. In fact, I'll go a little bit before. Right after the prophet died, the prophetess died, 1914 to 15, we had the reform movement. Somebody thought, we need to make a reform within the movement. Look, they are not called the Seventh-day Adventist Church Institution Reform. Now, have you ever done reform in your house? Do you do the reforms in your house or in your neighbor's house? Is there any kind of reform in your house done in your neighbor's house? It doesn't make any sense. How can you reform the church out of the church? And I'm speaking of peace because I have several friends that are reform movement. And I preached in a reform movement camp meeting. So this is nothing. In fact, we had a conversation with the elders at the end of my preaching. It was a great because they are very specific on the people they picked there, but the Lord gave me that opportunity. I preached there about music. And as we were talking with the elders, they said, the reason why we cannot join the Adventist church is because there's apostasy in your midst. And I said, look, I was in the camp meeting. I saw also some problems there. You also have issues with sin. He said, yes, listen well. We have also issues with sin, like everybody, but we don't condone sin. We have no apostasy. Wow. And he said, so you're trying to tell me that we as a church, we condone sin and we have apostasy? And he said, yes. He said, so I cannot join your church because it's not the true church yet. He said, why? Why is it not the true church? Because I said, because it is prophesied that the true church in the last days will have apostasy. If your church doesn't have it, it's just fulfilling the Our church has apostasy. Do you have any doubt about that? Is there any period of the church that was without apostasy? The Israelites didn't have apostasy. You know, they were so apostatized that they killed Jesus, the Messiah they were waiting for. And the Lord said, now you're not the church anymore. I'm going to form a reform movement. No, he said, I'm going to give you even more grace until Stephen. You see? They killed the Son of God, and the Lord didn't say, you're not the church. Why? Just because we didn't make a good decision with the word issues and all the things, with all the procedures and bureaucracy, now we are not the church any longer. Okay? So, I believe, and I've told that to my friends, I had 2 interviews with the Reform movement, and I told them, I believe the last day events will be so hard that there will be no time for pickiness. We will all join together, press together, because this will be too hard. You see, it's like Israel and Judah. The Lord didn't want this, but still the Lord was only with one of them, not with the 2 of them. He kept loving them and blessing them and helping them and calling them to come together. But one was the official one. It's not the Lion of the other tribes. He's the Lion of Judah. You see, God has no prejudice, but He has things very set straight. So it's the same thing here. So God had no prejudice, but He had things straight. I started an institution. If it's because they are not holy enough, then I don't have to go with you guys also, because no one of you is holy enough. Are you with me? 1957. Questions on doctrine. If we have any movement to thank, all the independent movements we have today, we should thank this period. I want to start telling you why I don't see the way people see about questions on doctrine. A lot of people say, yeah, Ellen White says that a new organization will start. They will produce books and this. All that Ellen White is saying, she's talking in a conditional. She's saying, what would happen if we would have a reorganization? We would see. And she said, we cannot reorganize that way. We'll go to the text soon. Or if we don't have time, I'll print them and give it to you. And we can post it with a message also. It's a lot of texts from the Spirit prophecy, but I want us to be in the same context. 1957, this great crisis, they were attacking the nature of Christ. Wait, I've heard this. Wait. The issue was about this. The nature of Christ. Isn't that what the Holy Flesh movement was talking about? The nature of our human body. It was that what Carol was talking about. Then ways of righteousness and all the things. This opened the door, and a lot of independent movements started. A lot of institutions started. Some started being just self-supporting. Others started being isolated. I want to make a distinction as we speak between independent and self-supported. Independent is something out. If you're just not administrated by the church, you're self-supported, you don't have a church administration, but you're not independent. So we had some that were in one direction, others that were in another. This became a confusion, okay? And spread all throughout the church. Several people thought, okay, this is the Omega, we have to do something about it, we cannot join the church is not good about it. I want us to understand something very important to understand. Again, I go to agriculture because those are the examples the Lord uses. When you have a shaking with the wheat and the shaft and all that, when you shake, if you notice how a shaking goes, you will notice something very interesting because Jesus is not telling parables by Ezra. The shaker does like this, shakes and threw it up. All the wheat and the shaft goes up. The shaft doesn't have grain, doesn't have doctrine, solid things. The wind blows it out, it goes out. The wheat goes up, shakes and comes back again to the same basket. Those that are out, what does the shaker do? Oh, don't think you're going to get out of here. If you are a wheat, you'll go back to the basket. Are you with me? I want you to understand very clearly that I agree with the problem. When doctors have to do a surgery or something, they come together and they have to do the diagnosis. And they have to agree with the diagnosis. You have to first know what is the problem, to know what's the prophylaxis, what's the medicine you're going to apply. So I agree with the diagnosis. We have apostasy in the church. Notice I didn't say apostasy of the church. There's no such a thing as apostasy of the church because the name of the Lord is in this institution. You see, the Lord says in Ezekiel 16, I'm going to give you my ring, I'm going to give you my name, and I will cover you with my cape because now my name is with you. The Lord many times in the Bible say, I'm going to do this for the sake of my name. It's not because we are good or not in apostasy, it's because the Lord has His name on this. If I get married to my wife, I don't want to go outside and tell bad things about her because she carries my name. In fact, she carries two of my names. And I got one of her. What about that? I have 6 names. So I want us to understand this. We have misconceptions of the parables. We think that the shaking will take away the wheat and leave all that shaft. Who wants the shaft on the basket? What do you need that for? Right? God is trying to have pure wheat. Take all the shaft away. Well, who wants a church that only has shaft? What good is wheat all spread all over? How can you bake any bread with that? What I want us to understand is this. In 1957, the diagnosis was right. The medicine was wrong. The devil tried to stir up a lot of divisions, a lot of problems to try to solve the problem that didn't solve the problem. It's like somebody that says to a girl, you got pregnant, now you have to get married. Those guys just met in a party. They don't know. That's not the solution. That was just fornication. You don't solve a problem with another problem.
Amen.
Are you with me?
Yes.
So, division is not the solution for division.
Amen.
You know, feminism is not the solution for chauvinism.
That's right. That's right.
As well as liberalism is not the solution for legalism.
Right.
Those are just extremes. And we have to be careful where we go. Now, 1957 opened a lot of small groups, some good ones reviving, other independent. We don't want anything to do with this movement. But you can see that there was not the 8th Laodicean or Philadelphia's, whatever, church. That's 7. 1980s, we have now a lot of things and a lot of flavors coming up in the church. We have Desmond Ford saying, you know what, all this story about the sanctuary, this is a misunderstanding because the sanctuary, we go right away. So, you know, Once I was studying theology, I had a class of theology. The title was The Out-of-Date Sanctuary. When we all students, we heard that title, we were like, The Out-of-Date Sanctuary, which sanctuary is on. And the professor gave us 3 classes to explain to us that when Jesus went to heaven, he didn't go to the holy place. He went right away to the most holy place. I said, wait a minute. This sounds like foreign to me. I've heard this before. And everybody was tearing up, all the students looked, and my colleague on the side was saying, aren't you going to say anything? I said, well, I got myself burned yesterday because I called his attention to 2 things he said there. I'm trying to keep quiet. And my colleague, he was an Ukrainian guy. He was very white. But he was totally red. He was like, this is heresy. And I said, well, I guess so. So he had all the classes at the end. He said, so when Jesus went to heaven, he went to the holy place or to the most holy place? He had explained that heaven, where God is most holy, and all heaven is holy. So if Jesus went to meet the Father, then where he was most holy now. So that was the most holy place. And everybody in silence. Why are you going to tell the professor? You know, sometimes we need the wisdom that Jesus had for his answers when he had tricky questions. And I raised my hand and I said, well, the only way I can see that I can reconcile what you're saying with what the Bible is saying and the Spirit of prophecy is this. Jesus went to the holy place, which now is God, and his throne as wheels has moved there to receive him. He is now most holy. What could I tell him? You see, he was very upset because I was still saying that he was going to the holy place. What I want to say is that truth is self-sustaining.
Amen.
You can try to fix it the way you want. You will always end up on the same place. You cannot say that.
That's right.
80s also came the movement that is saying that the Holy Spirit is not a person. Wait a minute. 80s also came with the celebration movement. Wait a second. I've heard this before, the Alpha Apostasy. Caleb saying that the Holy, in this case, was attacking the Father. Now he's attacking the Son and the Holy Spirit. He said that the Father was just an energy. Now he's saying that the Son is just an energy. I've heard this before. And the Holy Flesh movement was attacking the nature of Christ. We saw this. Attacking the nature of mankind. And also we see now celebration movement bringing the same kind of music that the Holy Flesh movement wanted to bring into the church.
Wow.
We were told that the Omega will come and will have the same characteristics but worse. We never thought we would live to see that. In fact, to be honest, I never thought in all my life of Adventism I will live to see many of the things that I've seen in Adventism. I'm not going to dive into this, but you can read the letter from 1900, October 10, that Ellen White wrote in answer to Haskell. Haskell wrote to Ellen White, and she then answers back about the Holy Flesh movement. She describes all the things that we will see in modern worship coming into the church and explaining, so we have a distinction there. We don't have time for that now. What I want you to realize is that like in ancient Israel, there's no period in the church that the church is not under attack of Satan and under attack of heresy. That never made the church not be the true church.
Right.
Just because we had apostasy all throughout the time, and all the time we had heresy and problems in the church, and sometimes it was like 10 spies versus 2, it didn't mean we were not still Israel.
Yeah.
We are under attack. Of course, let me say you have a castle. You know, I grew up in Portugal. Portugal started in the 12th century. So I would wake up in the morning, 11 to 12, and I would see a castle on the top of the hill from the 12th century. That castle was conquered by a man. They tried several times, the Muslims were there. When they will come up the hill, the Muslims will throw hot oil on them, and they will come back. They were not being able, until one day they were able to come in the dusk, and one man, as they climbed and somehow getting oil and everything, he stuck his head on the gates. So his hand was squeezed on the gates, but to block the gates enough for the soldiers to pass one by one. They entered the city, the castle, and conquered the castle. Now, some of them were outside. Should they say, you know what? That castle is half Christians, half Muslims. We are leaving. What? It's our soldiers there. Just because they are still with a lot of Muslims there, it's not time to go. It's time to come. Right? If the church is under attack with a lot of people, and I'm not here, keep in mind, I'm not talking about prejudice against Muslims or Christians. In fact, those were just excuses, and Christians were just after fame and money. This is not the point here. The point of my parable, my story, is a true story, is that if you have some few men that are still in the castle, is not a reason for you to leave the castle, is a reason for you to join them and help them combat the enemy. Right? So I don't understand when people turn their back on the church because there are problems. Will you turn your back on your wife because there are problems? Will you turn your back on your kids because they have problems?
No.
You know, sometimes you might have to require things to be addressed or take precautions. So you tell your son you cannot come in. But you not turn away from your son. This is Christ's wife. He doesn't really like people to go around and tell everybody about the problems of his wife. I would not like him. Right? So you might have problems, and then you are going around, oh, his wife, the pastor's wife, I'm going to tell you, this lady. You wouldn't like that. So why do you do that to Christ's wife? In fact, all the ministries that I saw that criticized the wife of Christ, their marriages go down the hill. I've seen it once, twice, three, many times. Because if you are attacking the only protection you have, you make yourself vulnerable to the attacks of the enemy, your home will be destroyed. I've seen women becoming crazy. I've seen men getting divorced from their wives, leaving the wives with many kids. People that were criticizing the church. Be careful. Be careful. Does this mean that the church has no defect? I'm not blind. No, my wife has defects. Almost as many as I do. I want us to realize that the truth of the matter is because we think we are better than the rest of us.
Yeah.
There's no reason to leave a group that is as bad as you are. But you are not the one to say who is better or worse.
Yeah.
That's at the end. Even God waits until the end for his judgment. Why are you doing your judgment now, which is not even your play to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What I want us to understand, 1980s we have a great crisis, and from this crisis it was like, one thing is a bomb, a grenade, another thing is like when fire goes all over the place, and the church started now going like this. All kind of movements, more perfect than others, all kind of groups, everybody reviving, everybody doing this, and everybody saying this is not any longer the church because all of this. Again, I want to ask you, how many church periods are there? 7. Which one started in the beginning of this movement? The movement and then the institution. Yes, you want to say something?
No.
Okay. I want you to realize, though, something very important as we move forward. We will come to a time in Revelation 15, it says that you cannot sell or buy. This is you as an individual, and is the church as a juridic person. Are you legally, the church will not be able to sell or buy. Unless you say that the church is going to receive the mark of the beast also, and come down with that, they will also not be able to sell or buy. Are you with me? You cannot keep a legal institution that will not abide to all the legal requirements if they become, legal doesn't mean right. Alcohol was legal for a lot of time. It doesn't mean that it was right. Okay? So there will be legal implications that say either you do this way or you cannot. So our church will come to a point that we cannot function as an institution. We cannot sell or buy. We cannot have all these legal aspects. Does this mean that we stop being the church just because of that? I want you to realize 3 things, 3 steps. The Lord first started the movement, then He organized the movement, then started an institution. So even if the institution goes away, still we will be a movement that is organized. You know, Peter and Paul had no institution, but they had an organized church. When there was a problem to solve with circumcision, they came together, organized. Pastor Doug Batchelor says that the opposite of the organized church of Christ is the disorganized church of the devil. There's no other middle term. You know, God is not a God of confusion.
Amen.
I want us to understand that even if the institution disappears, the movement and the organized church still will be there. The institution is just a legal name for us to present ourselves. And it has a role to play. Am I saying that the institution and the church are different things? I don't want to go dive into that because it's not our topic. I want to just show you something here. This is the world. This is the church. Okay? Some people are in the world, but they are part of God's people. Some others are in the church and are not part of God's people. Church and world. The group of the church people, the ones with open dots. Some of them are God's people. Some of them are just institution. But that doesn't mean that the institution is not God's institution. Are you with me? So, just because the institution has apostasy, it doesn't mean it's not God's institution. As well as the movement has problems, it doesn't mean it's not God's movement. So we have to make a distinction. Sometimes we look at all the problems we have and think, oh, this cannot be. Wait a minute. Hello, you're seeing tares and wheat. No, now is the moment that we'll go for some tests. Okay? Before that, I want to this should be going up. We have a lot of text. You saw that? I'll probably not be able to read all of them. We'll just read the bold parts. I wanted to all read interactive, but as we started a little bit late, I would have to probably read myself. But I will print this to you if you want, or send it by email to me. I want you to realize something very interesting. Pastor, why are you getting so many texts from Spirit Prophecy? You just read a chapter or half a chapter, and then you mentioned several texts from the Bible, and now you're going to read a lot of texts from Spirit Prophecy. God told us, I recommend you to get what? I saw garments and gold. Look, the Lord is recommending you to use ourselves, clothe yourself in white, and buy gold. The Lord is talking about all the things you need for your righteousness, but He's talking about the gift He's going to give the church of Laodicea, which is the Spirit of Prophecy. Alan, it's an ancient name for our salt. White is the dress you have to have. Gold is what you need to buy. Amen. If you reject the testimony, you reject all the gifts the Lord gave you. Amen. To be a Laodicea coming out of lukewarmness. Amen. Yes. That's the gift He gave to this movement. All prophets have the name of their mission. Okay? Moses, saved of the waters, is not only that he was saved from the waters, he's that he saved the people out of the turmoil, crossed the Red Sea with them, and then inspired them to cross the Jordan. Amen. Are you with me? That's the name of his mission. I want you to go with me and see some of those texts. Okay? The church is God's appointed agency for the salvation of man. It was what? Organized for service. It was not just for you to go the way you want. It was organized. It has been God's plan. There's a plan behind this church. That through His church, not whatever way the church is also good, but through His church shall be reflected to the world His character, the fullness of His sufficiency. Now, some people say, well, there's the invisible church, the visible church, this church, that church. Yeah, that's true. But we cannot come into a lot of confusion, and it will be very simple there. So I'm not going to comment this. Let's see what does Ellen refers to when she's expressing what the Lord showed us as a church. Look at what it says. It is nearly 40 years since organization was introduced. She is talking now, this is 1892, she's talking about a specific movement, a specific church, is 82. So the institution is already formed. Are you with me? 92, I mean. I was one of the number who was establishing it. She helped establishing the organization of the church organization. I want you to know that there are only two churches as well organized as ours. As well organized. The Catholic Church and the Adventist Church. Thank you. The Catholic Church is organized like this. We have somebody on the top that tells what everybody on the bottom has to do. The Adventist Church is organized like this. We have a lot of people on the bottom that tells what everybody on the top has to do. In fact, to be more specific, we have somebody on the top that tells the bottom what they have to tell the top to do. That's the way Christ taught us about leadership. Leadership is not about you telling them, it's about them telling you. It's about you inspiring them, leading them to me. It's about you serving them. Are you with me? I'm not talking about anarchy. Some people fear the word hierarchy. You know, I'm going to reject this word because it came with a lot of influence, but you know that in heaven we are not going to all have the same level. That should be not an issue if you're not an envious person. And that will be an issue because if you're an envious person, you won't be there, so it won't affect you at all. That we have levels in heaven. You know, Gabriel is the archangel, is the chief of the angels. But the angels have no problem with that. I want you to understand this. So she helped organize and establishing at the early stage. Look, I'm going to go, we cannot read all the text, you can read at home. As our numbers increased, it was evident that without organization there will be great confusion. The opposite of the organized word of God. God is not a God of confusion. The spirit of the prophets is subject to the prophets. Let everything be done with decency and order. Okay? Look, this one is together, so you see the reference on the bottom, Christian experience and teaching. Okay. There was strong feelings against it among our people. So there were a lot of feelings resisting the organization. In fact, 20 years of debate. Adventists were opposed to organization, both the First-day Adventists as the Seventh-day Adventists. We sought the Lord with earnest prayer. If you are despising the organization of the church, you are despising the earnest prayer of the pioneers. We sought the Lord with earnest prayer, and light was given by who? His Spirit. You are opposing to the Holy Spirit. Of course, you will be blinded because without the Holy Spirit, there is no discernment.
Amen.
This is a very critical thing. Their organization was essential. Look, let no one entertain the thoughts that we can dispense with organization. Don't come this to your mind. It was inspired by the Holy Spirit. You cannot outgood the Holy Spirit. It has cost us much study and many prayers. Let none of our brethren be so deceived as to attempt to tear it down. I want to clarify why he's to tear it down. If one of my sons is organizing the pen like this, and the other said, no, this is not good, those two should be here, it's better organized because this is not organized. Am I tearing down this? Or if they say, no, this is not the way it should be like this, I think it's better. Am I tearing down this? So I want you to understand that when you come to something that was inspired by God and say this is no good because it has problems, you're making a misconception between office and people. You cannot curse the office of the President of the United States just because you don't like the President. That office in the church is established by God. If some people are not faithful to the office, or some president may not be faithful to the office as president, that doesn't mean that the office is no good.
That's right.
Okay? So we have to understand when you tear down this organization because it has problems and start another one, what you are doing, you are tearing down what God established through inspiration just because the people that are in place are not good.
That's right. That's it.
We have to understand again, we are not called to be the judges. In fact, when you go to court and the judge asks you, so tell me what you saw as a witness. You say, I think this man is guilty. The judge will say, I'm the judge here. Thank you. I'm just asking what you saw. Or if he says, tell me what you saw, and you go, this man is formally prosecuted. Say, wait, the accusation will raise and say, I'm the accusation. You just the witness. Or if you come and stand there and say, Judge, this man is innocent because he said, no, I'm the defense. Our role in this judgment is not any other one but witness. You're not the judge. You're not the accusation. You're not the defense. Okay? A witness tells what they saw. Okay? The Lord has an organized body. It's not just a movement, a scattered thing. It's an organized body through whom He will work. He's not working, you may be good and do a lot of work and be very talented. I'm going to tell you something. When I was a kid, in my apostatized years, we would go to each other's house, watch movies, we would rent several movies and play and drink Coca-Cola. Liters and liters of Coca-Cola. This is just the church people. Okay, that's what we would do for Saturday night. I think they call this Saturday night fever, right? It's fever because it's hot, because you're already feeling the burdens of hell. So we will be there. And I remember there was one movie that we will bring a lot of movies from that. That was Rambo.
Yeah.
Just a stripe on the head. This guy didn't need an army. By himself, he will do everything. Some people, they think they are the Rambos of the gospel.
Yeah.
They don't need a church. I have a machine gun with a lot of bullets. I can do whatever I want. I'll conquer the entire place. You know, it's never effective because Rambo always needs the army to come after that.
Yes.
You might have special forces. Special forces, they go to the army. They inspire the army. They shoot like no one else. But still, they need the army for whatever they have to do. So the army has to aim to be like special forces. But still, special forces cannot discard the army. We always have the prophets and the Levites. We will always have the church and self-supporting movement. We are not to have friendly fire against each other. We are to work towards a goal. There's no such a thing as being by yourself and just shooting everybody because you're good with evangelism. You will go nowhere. And you will see a text where she says it very clearly. There may be more than a score of Judases among them. By the way, why didn't Jesus say, you know what, these 12 is totally wrong because we have a Judas. I'm going to restart this. A parallel movement without Judas. He tolerated, he knew that Judas was totally corrupted. But still he tolerated him. The great teacher seeks to correct the existing evils. In all ages, there have been men who think they have a work to do for the Lord and show no respect for those whom the Lord has been using. I'm not going to say this. I'm going to be holier. It is good to try to be holy. But when you try to be holier than others, you are with the Lucifer's problem.
Yeah.
Are you with me? Whatever may be the claims of those
Come on.
who draw away from the body, they are in Satan's service. Supposing this spurious message is the one everyone must hear for this time. Come out of her, my people. A lot of people say that this call is for Babylon. I've never seen in the Bible the type of Babylon being applied to the church. Never seen that. You see, the church is a woman that sometimes is in prostitution, but still Hosea goes there and get her back.
Yeah.
It was never called Babylon. It's always Israel. God's people. God still bears its name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where shall we go to? Where shall we find the purity, goodness, and holiness where we shall be secure? Where is the fold where no wolves will enter? What church can you start that will be more faithful and secure and holy than the movement that the Lord Himself started?
Come on.
If His church is having problems, What makes you think that you can start a church that will have less problems than that?
Come on.
Are you with me?
Come on.
It's serious. This is very serious. But please, I want to say a disclaimer here. I'm not only talking about them. Sometimes we have the same spirit of independency within, and we need to be watchful about that. It's the same spirit. If you don't have the spirit of Christ, okay? So I'm happy that we are tuned and we are seeing the same things, but Laodicea is not a problem about the others who left on the shaking. Laodicea is a problem of our lukewarmness.
Yeah.
Okay? Those who are inclined to regard their individual judgment as supreme are in grave peril. It is Satan's steady effort to separate such ones. To what? Separate such ones. To think that his life must come through no other channel than directly from God is to place himself in a position where he is liable to be deceived by the enemy. You know, one of the problems that cause splits is like this. We are very okay until an issue comes. Let me pick one that has nothing to do so that we don't have a problem. Let's say, for instance, an example. Masks or not masks. Something that has nothing to do with what we're going on. It's just an example, okay? And now one thing we should, another thing we shouldn't, and they are not with God. The Spirit of Christ is not with them so we go. And look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you could not choose a church where you feel comfortable because they are aligned with what you think. What I'm saying is leaving the church because they don't think the way you think. Because we come to a doctrine point and we think that they are not faithful as you are.
Yes.
These people are using their own judgment as the parameter. Then as they go, while we are all thinking the same way, we go fine. Until, wait, Brother John, that's not correct. If I'm thinking a different way and you're thinking that way, I have the Holy Spirit and you don't. You're wrong. So they try to be faithful, but their faithfulness is based on their own judgment. You know, I want you to understand this. The biggest present truther in the Bible was Peter. Why? Peter loved so much the sword. He will use it so much that it will cut the ears and people could not hear the message any longer. It was so straight with the sword. He had to be tamed until it could be used to be willing to die upside down.
Amen.
That kind of present truth has no effect because you cannot have God's message with Satan's spirit.
Yeah.
I want us to understand that we are to seek a different spirit. Look at the expression she's using. She's not even using the movement name, which is the Adventist movement. She's using the church institution name. Seventh-day Adventist. This institution created within this movement have been chosen to be, by God, as a peculiar people. He has made them his representatives to be ambassadors for him in the what?
Word.
Last word. Last word. The greatest wealth of truth was entrusted.
That's right.
Yeah. The last word. He's not saying any kind of scattering, anything will be on the last word. He says Seventh-day Adventist Church. Look, in a special sense, Seventh-day Adventists have been set in the world as watchmen. To them has been entrusted the last warning. To whom? To this institution, to this church, to this movement. With problems? Yes. You know, Saul had less sins than David, but more pride. David with more sins and worse sins were saved because he was humble.
Yes.
You might be more perfect than others or more faithful to the word, but if you think too much of yourself,
Yeah.
you have exactly the opposite spirit of the Spirit of Christ.
Yes.
You see, the proclamation of the first, second, and third angel message, that's the final thing. I don't see any other eighth movement that was entrusted this because we were unfaithful or lukewarm. I see only one movement.
Yeah.
Okay? Some have advanced the thought, look at this, very important, that as we near the close of time, every child of God will act independently of any religious organization. But I have been instructed by the Lord that in this work there is no such thing as every man's being independent. This is with or without a church. If you're working in your church just independently, this is not the Spirit. In order that the Lord's work may advance, this is hindering the Lord's work. Helpfully and solidly, His people must draw together. I want you to read this text very carefully with me. It's very important. Because I was one of those. I thought that as I got a call like Paul, I was doing the job, and I made a commitment that I will not refuse any invitation to preach. When I started being a preacher, far from being a pastor, I was 10 years away from becoming a pastor. And I thought my call was to be a lay preacher, so the devil said, good rule, I'm going to overthrow you. I got so many appointments that I didn't have time for my first ministry, which was my family. I didn't have time to anything. I thought I was doing the Lord's work. Until I read a text that was saying about the death of James White, and Ellen White was saying that even the most faithful of the servants, if he dies, the work will keep going exactly at the same pace. And I thought, man, I'm useless. This will happen with or without me. I'm just having the privilege to participate. Why should I burn myself?
Amen.
Okay? The spasmodic, look at this word, fitful movements of some who claim to be Christians are well represented by the work of strong but untrained horses. When one pulls forward, another pulls back. At the voice of their master, one plunges ahead and the other stands immovable. If man will not move in concert in the great and grand work of this time, for this time, there will be confusion. Look how many times he uses this word. It is not a good sign when men refuse to unite with their brethren and prefer to act alone.
Yeah.
Man, this is serious. Why am I preaching this today? Because this is the time we are needing to unite like never before. We are needing to be focused. We are needing to know what we are doing. And we still have a lot of this spirit of independency in us. The same spirit that killed Satan can kill us. If men wear the yoke of Christ, they cannot pull apart. They will draw with Christ.
Amen.
Some workers, this was me, pull with all the power that God has given them, but they have not yet learned that they should not pull alone.
Amen.
I saw a cartoon once. I'm almost done. I know we
Take
are.
your time.
I know it's probably almost 11 at this time.
Take your time.
And I want to be full. Not here, in other places. Time zones. You see, I saw a cartoon once about the men that were building the pyramids. And we saw the pyramids and all the men working and being spanked to do that, and everybody hard. And then a horn rings, and another man says, what's happening now? It says, break time. So they all go, and then one man stays there with another one beating him. And he's pulling a big rock that he's not moving. And the guy asks, so what is this guy doing? He's doing extra hours. He's working extra. Now, if this man stayed there for 2 days working extra hours, would he pulled that? It requires more than one. You see, if you have several horses, even powerful, one works at one time, the other works at another time, you will never pull that chariot. This is what Satan wants, that you feel that you are a Rambo of the gospel, that he will do it like nobody will do it, and you work on your own, and you think you're very effective, and you're just burning yourself and getting nowhere.
Amen.
Because this is an army.
Amen.
We work together, and the general is Christ. Some workers pull with all the power that God has given them, but they have not learned that they should not pull alone. Instead of isolating themselves, let them draw in harmony. Unless they do this, their activity will work at the wrong time and in the wrong way. Look at this. They will often work counter to that which God will have done, and thus their work is worse than wasted. It is better to work with an unfaithful church and trying altogether than to work on yourself. First, if you have an unfaithful church, it's not the moment to go and work by yourself. You know, Jesus would always call 3 disciples with him. And people say, oh, who were the closest one? No. It was Peter, the quick answer. It was John and James, the sons of thunder. those were the ones that needed his presence the most. That was his mission. He said those guys can be great leaders, but they need to be tamed. So you see, the disciples were always fighting with each other. What do you think they will feel if Jesus said, "You guys come with me"? Oh yeah, oh come, those guys again. Everybody knew why he was calling them. You guys come with me, yeah. Go get it. You see, everybody knew. I was reading yesterday, in Spirit Rocks is saying that Jesus would rebuke his disciples often, but then they will not leave him because they will see his love and care, and they wanted to be like him. So John, Peter, and James were happy to go with Jesus. They felt privileged that the Lord was working on them. But they knew they had an issue. Okay? So this is what we have to see. Many times we work against what God is doing. As we near the final crisis, there is less need of, instead of feeling there is less need of order and harmony, we should be even more systematic. We should work even more together. Now, I don't have the time to read all this. You can read at home. This is still there for all of us to read. But I wanted to understand some things here. God, this is very important, God has not passed his people by and chosen one solitary man here and another there as the only one worthy to be entrusted with the truth. He does not give one man new life contrary to the established faith of the body. Let none be self-confident as though God has given them special life above their brethren. You know, let me tell you how family works. We are 5. The kids still have a small staff, and we have a big staff. Daddy's not going to say, we are going this staff no matter what. If you guys can keep it up, you keep up. If you cannot, all the family goes according to the pace of the weakest one. This is how herds work and sheep work. Just because you're faster, it doesn't mean you'll be running and all the rest will be left behind. Even Jacob put the faster one, the slowest one, everybody to get there. Okay? I want us to understand that this is not the Spirit of Christ. We cannot now step off the foundation that God has established. Any new organization would mean apostasy from the truth. Any new organization. I'm not only talking about other movements, I'm talking even within us. If we think we can improve God's plan. You see, we cannot improve God's plan. I am instructed to say to Seventh-day Adventists, God has called us as a people. He has appointed that His church on earth shall stand perfectly united to the end time.
Amen.
To the end time. Not until a certain point, until we are faithful, until the 80s or until 1957. Okay? I'm not going to read this part. This is just talking about the importance of the general conference. A lot of people think just because we have problems at all levels. The apostasy in the church is not a problem of leadership. It's a problem of humanship.
Amen.
Fallen humanship.
Amen.
You know, it's easier to see the leaders as apostates. I heard some people, we were as missionaries in Brazil for a long time, and people were complaining about the government. But if they find a purse here, they might take it home. They don't see a problem. It's just a problem with the government. The problem with the government is a problem with us. You know, the leadership you have is because of the membership you have.
Amen.
And vice versa.
Amen.
The husband builds the wife builds the husband. The leaders build the church builds the leader. You only have the leadership you have because of who we are.
Amen.
So this is talking about something very important. A lot of people despise several things. It says, the voice of the general conference represented by few men. That's when she said there was not the voice of God. But look at what she says. God has ordained that the representatives of His church from all parts of the earth, when assembled in a general conference, shall have authority. God has invested His church with special authority and power, which no one can be justified by disregarding and despising. For he who does this despises the voice of God. You are going against the office instead of the person. You are going against the office that God established. Christ gives power to the voice of the church. No such thing is countenanced as one man's starting out upon his own individual responsibility and advocating that what views he chooses irrespectively of the judgment of the church. He says, It is the voice of God in His united people in church capacity, which is to be respected.
Yes.
I want you to understand this very well. When representatives from all the church in the world come and meet together and ask for the presence of the Lord, that is like the voice of God. Unless there is a total disruption. Okay, I want you to understand this. Once I was a lay preacher. I was going to preach in a park in São Paulo. And the leadership asked me not to preach. I was a Portuguese preacher. They didn't know me. They were concerned with several things. They asked me not to preach. And some people were telling me, you go and preach because nobody can stop the work. And they were using these texts and saying, it's not, Ellen White says, it's not just a few men that make counsel and do whatever we have to say. And I told them, you know what? If I would go and preach, I would be doing the same thing as those few men. I would be disregarding all the body and saying, I'm smarter. I got it better. I'm going to do it my way. Everything has to be done the right way. If you guys want to preach, you go to your leadership. You ask them, please, you insist with them because you are the ones to tell them what they must do. They represent you. So if you don't want to take a step by the right way, I cannot take a step the wrong way. You know, even David didn't snatch what seemed to be an opportunity. He respected the office. He was clear about the office.
That's right.
Okay? So there's a lot of text. I'm not going to read all this. She says that some people take passages in the testimonies and they talk about it coming out of a people of purer, holier that will arise. And this pleases the enemy. This is what Satan wants. The Lord has not given you a message to call the people of God to come out of her. His church, it is not to be disorganized or broken up into independent atoms. There is not the least consistency in this. There is not the least evidence that such a thing will be. She's saying not only now, but even in the future. I know you can take notes and help you being focused, but I can give you all those texts. It was not me writing them. So it's ours. That's the pearl, the gold, the white that the Lord has given us. Okay? For us not to be in darkness. Okay, this is the last text. Okay? The Lord has a organized body through whom He will work. Do you understand clearly individuals and corporations? Individuals sin and corporates sin. Just because all the people is unfaithful, it doesn't mean God will punish Joseph or Daniel. You're not carrying the blame if you're not partake of that. But it means that you should pray like Moses and like Daniel. Amen. And not turn away. I didn't see Jesus looking at the church and saying, man, this is such a mess. No way. Father, I'm going back. You see, it says that when Jesus came, the church was in such a bad situation that it was not even worth fixing. He had to start. You might say, here you see, he had to start a new movement. Are you Jesus? He started the last one. Okay? Let's not play holier than Jesus, smarter than God. Amen. Let's play humble. Because even Jesus being where he was, he came down to do. But again, I want to say as I close, I'm not only talking about them myself. The reason why we are still lukewarmness in all this is because inside we still have the same dust, the same spirit in our hearts. I would like you to hear a song. I was sitting there preparing the things. My daughter decided to sit at the piano and sing the song. And I said, what do you mean? That's for my sermon. Yes, so it was a song, I think it's in fact the first time that they sing it, they just composed it this week or last week or something like that. But I think the lyrics have to do a lot with what we are talking about. We will close with this. Thank you for your patience. we are. The problem that we're seeing in the world at this moment is authority. You know, I said this before. The governors want the president wants the governors to obey them, and they want the people to obey them. The other way around. The governors want the people to obey them, but they don't want to obey the president. You see, people want the leaders to give them all the right, but they don't want to submit to the leaders. You know, you cannot have both ways, God's spirit and Satan's spirit. You have to choose one. And this is all what it's all about. This is a long journey. We were God's people there, God's people here, God's people now. With all the defects, still God's wife.
Amen. Amen. God be the glory. Amen.
I feel tugged by a swelling tide. Don't know where my life will go. I feel lost in my life's ride, tossed by these waves to and fro in the dark and pictured night. When waves beat hard on my boat, I heard someone tell
say this is the song of this church. So there's storms ahead of us, but He will keep us safe and sound. I want you to realize that it was only one man beside Jesus who walked on the waters. And He did that when He was not still fully converted. Because the Lord, even if we are not completed yet, can still make us walk on waters as a church. I want to close to what Jesus told to this man. He told this man in Matthew 16, verse 18. And I say also unto thee, thou art just a little stone, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against us. This church was not built upon people.
That's right.
This church was built upon a rock where the lighthouse is. And there's no way the gates of hell can prevail against it. Let us pray together. Father in heaven, we saw all throughout the Bible many men with good intentions doing wrong things. With good intentions, Paul was persecuting God's people. Good intentions are not everything. We need to be solidly standing on the rock.
Yes.
We need to be towards the right path, the right direction. I pray, Father, that You may wake us all up to the times we are in to understand that the church is about to face the final clash, a time of trouble like never before, a challenge like we have never seen as Your people.
Yes.
We need all the energy we need, all the focus we need, all the unity we need. I pray that You may grant us this, that we may open our eyes.
Yes.
Only You can do that. That if any man thinks different-wise, the Lord will enlighten us. That we may all have the mind of Christ, the Spirit of Christ, and the victory of Christ. In Jesus' name I pray. Your church.